Greetings, unsettled souls. Welcome to The Correct Views, my low-def friends, my high-def friends. Interesting thing happened at the post office. The lady tried to tell us that it was going to cost us $40 to mail a runner-up dunce cap award to the Prime Minister of England. And that doesn't make any sense to me. So I looked it up online, and it was like $1.20. So then the behind-the-scenes queen was very, very worried that I'm going to go to jail for terrorism. So here's what I'm going to do, because she might be right. I am, in fact, going to put a bunch of stamps on this, like $1.50's worth of stamps. And then I'm going to go ahead and mail it to the Prime Minister. It's a piece of paper. Now, he's probably not going to like what this piece of paper says, but it's not a terroristic threat. As I go live here at 4:01 a.m., 10/15/2015 to prove it, and now that disaster has been averted. Friends, check this out. Local cops want the ability to draw citizens' blood year-round. And now, see, this is perfect. I should have kept this for the Halloween show. I'm so mad at myself right now I could punch myself. Because I'm working on a Halloween show. And for those of you that are regular viewers, all of the characters that I always pretend that I am on Halloween and April Fool's Day, they're coming back. I'm going to be the Englishman, all of them. For new viewers that may have found this out of nowhere, when you see that the Halloween show, hit subscribe, and when you see that the Halloween show posts, I got a whole slew of stories coming for Halloween, and this vampirism here should have been one of the stories that I had saved and didn't. Local cops want the ability to draw citizens' blood year-round. Now, I don't know if anybody listening to my voice right now happens to know what Fourth Amendment is or what it entails. But you are supposed to be secure in your persons, and you are secure from illegal and unwanted searches and seizures. How is it legal for somebody to put a needle into your arm and take out your blood? Now, I get a lot of flack for sticking up for Christianity on this show. Alright, fine. We won't even bring Christianity into it. How many people listening to my voice happen to find their blood sacred? Or whatever word you wish to use instead of sacred. How many of you do not find your blood sacred? Because I think it's probably going to be a really small list. Anybody with leukemia, unfortunately, is hearing me right now. Blood is very important. They want, according to the article here by Alan Salazar, as you can see on FactCam, they want to be able to draw your blood whenever they want. Listen to this. How can any sane country be in favor of this? Police in Central Texas are proposing a year-round no-refusal policy, which would allow officers to draw blood from people merely suspected of driving under the influence. Now, we already know a number of things right off the rip here. For first and foremost would be that most DUIs, particularly your first level and probably more than half of your second level or second tier DUIs, are absolutely a threat to no one. And I can give you a number of reasons to prove that their statistics are rigged. First and foremost would be that these accidents where they say, well, alcohol was involved, what they'll do is if someone has an accident, they'll test them for alcohol, and if alcohol is present, then they'll say that it's factor. I argue that accident would have happened whether the person had 1 drink, 2 drinks, or no drinks. The same likelihood of that accident happening would have happened with 0 drinks, 1 drinks, or 2 drinks. That is what I'm saying. That's like saying, well, do you know in every accident, oxygen was involved? Yeah, it was. That's right. Everybody was breathing during everybody's accident. That isn't usually, for the most part, I would say true. Am I saying that blood is... that air is comparable to oxygen? No. I'm saying that air is comparable to alcohol? No. I'm saying that the alcohol had no more effect at that low of a level than no alcohol would. That's what I'm saying. Now, you're going to say, Sam, that's not true, and I can prove it, because did you ever see those shows where they show somebody what it's like to drive a car while under the influence? You know what they do? They rig the car. They rig the car so that nobody could drive it, and then they try to say that that's what you're going to be like on 2 beers. Okay, and I'm not going to lie to anybody here. I got a DUI like 6-7 years ago. I don't know what it was. Maybe 8 years ago. At 190 pounds, I had 2 drinks within an hour and a half, and they said that I was over. A threat to absolutely no one. No, I did not. I didn't hit anybody either. I was just driving down the road, and the cop pulled me over. There was a sign. Those of you in Canton know what I'm talking about. Belton Village. They keep changing Everhard where it turns over. And everybody not local now is just zoned out. Now they're clicking off and I'll never see them again. Bye. Everybody local, though, to clarify, you know what I mean. They keep changing whether or not you can turn right on red when you're at the Everhard Dressler Exchange. Anyway, everybody listening to me in Canton knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's a trap. So they pull people over and they give you a DUI for nothing. And it's an excuse to generate money for the state. And all these rehab centers that are tied into the state that have quotas, you can look it up, quotas that they have to meet. So this DUI racket exists here in ways that we've never ever imagined before. And this is what you're looking at. It says, during no refusal traffic stops, police can forcibly extract blood or breath samples against a person's will after the person refuses sobriety tests. They do it even if you accept the sobriety test. That is a lie. APD officers overcome constitutional objections by obtaining warrants, attempting to give the invasive procedure some air of legitimacy. However, Attorney Jamie Balagia, who's a hero, who specializes in DWI cases, says he's never, that would be never, ever, seen a judge deny a no refusal warrant, and that no refusal essentially amounts to telling police, amounts to police telling the public, quote, we're going to take your blood no matter what you do. Does that sound like the America that you were taught about in school? Whatever, depends on when you graduated, I guess. I've never seen a judge say no to a blood draw warrant, Balagia admitted to the fix in 2012. Why? And not have a chimpanzee rubber stamp these warrants? Because they are not turning down or rejecting any of them. Austin police already implement no refusal blood draws several times throughout the year during holidays like the 4th of July, Halloween, and New Year's Eve, and Labor Day, which they recently extended all the way till the end of summer. The police insist more are needed to keep the public safe. Whenever you hear 2 words, for public safety or for the children, just know that you're about to get hosed. It's about to be some kind of socialist leftist crap and you're about to be hosed. The increase in blood draws, however, will require staffing beyond the department's capabilities, according to one attorney, and the current turnaround time for blood test results in anywhere from 3 to 6 months. That's your tax dollars hard at work to do nothing. Going full-time is just going to mean an overload, Austin defense attorney Mindy Munford told a KVUE-TV. They don't have the resources to test the blood in any reasonable fashion, so there goes your right to an expedient trial, of course. Even after the results are in, Balagia says there are numerous factors which can result in false positives, that's people getting popped for drinking when they weren't, and can lead to blood evidence being stricken from a case, including ensuring that a trained phlebotomist followed all the correct procedures, in addition to confirming that a proper lab setup was used. Now, let me add one other thing here. How many of you know what hemophilia is? Some people, when you prick them, they have a very hard time stopping the blood flow. Sleeping Beauty is a fairy tale about it, but it's real. Not the sleeping part. Bear with me. You have to say that because there's a lot of Usher fans out there that'll think that I'm saying Sleeping Beauty was real. They exist. they can't stop bleeding. And if the police are doing it, they're not trained at all to handle something like this. If the police are not doing it, then the phlebotomist may have to give them certain drugs that aren't bad necessarily, depending on how many times they've already needed to use it that year. Some hemophiliacs have a very big problem with this. And just pulling somebody over and doing this could really jeopardize the health of a number of people. This is just all bad, people. Even after the results are, a big myth in Texas DWI cases is that the blood test results are more reliable than any other chemical DWI testing, and it simply is not true, he says. He's a hero. There are many things that can cause a high BAC results in the blood test artificially, which means that the tests are very unreliable. Austin PD has yet to announce a time frame for when they wish to fully implement this controversial initiative. Let me ask you something. What is with Austin? I mean, Texas is so right about a number of things like guns and libertarianism, but how can they be so wrong on matters? I mean, I'm telling you, this Texas is the best thing. I don't know. I read things like that, and I really don't know if I think they're any better than anywhere else. They're just better in certain ways, I guess. Listen to this. America, number one, and ask 36 facts that prove that the United States is an exceptional nation. Michael Snyder, Economic Collapse. Let me run through these ever so quickly, and I will comment on them as we go, because some of these are BS. According to a brand new report that was just released by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the United States has the fattest population, that is true, of all of the industrial world. 38% rate of childhood obesity, which is also higher than any other childhood obesity rate. And according to the USA Today, the U.S. has more than doubled over the past 25 years its obesity rate. 4. Washington Post has reported that Americans spend an average of 293 minutes a day watching television, which is the highest by far. The problem with that is that just 6 enormously powerful media corporations are the ones making all of this programming. I'm going to pause here and let you realize what that is saying. How many of you know amazing musicians? Amazing. That absolutely cannot get a deal, while garbage like Kesha, Usher, T-Pain, Lil Wayne, Nickelback, this talentless garbage gets called music. Why is that? Because if you can dumb the nation down, then you can easily replace what you're selling them in terms of music, for one. It's not that hard to replace Lil Wayne. If you sign Jimi Hendrix, that's very hard to replace. So it's better just to dumb people down, among other things. And if they can keep the people dumb, then they don't need to really find great talent. What they can do is sell really a lack of talent. They can sell that over and over and over and over and over again. And you're only getting your news and your media and the opinions that are in your movies from 6 enormously powerful media corporations. That's very important. How many of you know great writers that can never get a book deal? How many of you know great anyone that can never seem to get ahead in the media-driven world? Well, I just told you why. One study found that the average American spends more than 10 hours a day using some sort of electronic device. Again, that's one of the BS ones. I do. I'm a DJ. I use my computer all day long. I use my computer because I'm a political commentator, and that's what I use to give myself the stories that I'm commenting on. I'm not a reporter. I'm a political commentator. Screw you, Charles Ward. I'm not understanding here what that has to do with anything. I know people that are addicted to their phones, but I'm not sure, and I think that's a very bad thing. We've covered that repeatedly here, but irrelevant. 6, that by the time the American child reaches the age of 18, that child will have seen 40,000 murders on TV. Who gives a rat's ass? I loved horror movies my whole life. I had a father that taught me the difference between fact and fiction, and those 40,000 murders had absolutely no effect on me at all. Next. 7. The average young American will spend 10,000 hours playing video games before the age of 21. Well, that might change if the government didn't insist on arresting parents for letting their children play outside. And if you think that that's something I made up, look it up and you'll find we've covered it here and elsewhere. 8. Out of 22 countries studied by the Educational Testing Service, Americans were dead last in tech proficiency, dead last in numeracy, and only 2 countries performed worse than we did in literacy. I guarantee the literacy thing is right, because America, where I'm at, I am surrounded by people that cannot even understand half the lyrics that I put in our music. Not because they can't make out what I'm saying, because I do well in that, considering our genre. It's because they don't know what the words mean. Mind-blowing. In more than half of U.S. states, the highest public paid employee is the football coach. The percentage of wealth owned by the middle class adults in North America than anywhere else in the world. Listen to that. Pause. You tuned in for a reason, right? The percentage of wealth, the amount of wealth that is owned by middle class adults is lower in North America than it is anywhere in the world. What about Saudi Arabia? What about Israel? What about the Middle East? What about wherever? No, we are dead last. That includes China and hellholes like Russia. Yes, I said it. Almost half of all Americans, 47%, do not put a single penny of their paychecks into savings. That's probably because they can't afford to. I did as soon as I was able to. I think 47% don't. Probably 40% can't afford to. 12. It turns out that Americans are very good at locking people away in prison. I agree completely. We lock up 716 out of every 100,000 members of the population, and that makes the United States the highest incarceration rate on the entire planet by a very wide margin. What about China? Yep. What about North Korea? They have worse prisons. We have more people locked in than they do. And keep in mind that most of the people in North Korean prisons don't even deserve to be there, because what they do is they lock up one guilty person and then 3 generations of his family. Even doing that, they have not locked up 716 out of 100,000 people. No one does that but America. Approximately 1/4 of the entire prison population is in the U.S. He's cheating. That's the same stat. 14. In 2014, police in the U.S. killed 1,100 people. During that time of the same year, police in Canada killed 14 people. China only killed 12 people in 2014, and the police in Germany didn't kill anyone at all. 15. One recently published study found that 1 out of every 6 young Americans has stolen something during the past year. That's both very sad for 2 reasons. 1 is because of the dishonesty that we're seeing. 2 is because I bet you 1/3 of those had to. 16. There are more car thefts in the U.S. than anywhere else in the world by far. According to Fox News, approximately 70% of married men in the U.S. admit to having cheated on their wives. That makes me sick. Again, I don't claim to be some great moral high horse or anything. I do all kinds of things that you would think were terrible, but cheating's never been one of them. 18. Americans spend far more on health care than anywhere else in the world, and yet we rank 26th. That means that literally we are 26th in the world in terms of health care, but we're more expensive than any other nation on the globe. According to a study conducted by the Mayo Clinic, 70% of all Americans are on at least 1 prescription drug, and an astounding 20% are on at least 5. You know what? I can't give you any health advice that I can promise you is going to work, but I can promise you what worked for me. Look up how to almost never get sick. Now, that could all change tomorrow. Grace of God, please don't let it. But there are things you can do to help yourself along. 20. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 31% of all food in the U.S. gets wasted. 133 billion pounds of food get thrown away, eaten by no one, wasted. In 2013, women earned 60% of all bachelor's degrees. That means only 40% are being earned by men. And I'm not saying men are better than women. What I mean is men are not stepping up to the plate in equal numbers. A survey conducted by Barna Group discovered that 70% of Christian men in America, 18 to 30 age bracket, view porn on at least a monthly basis. You know what? I don't have no problem with porn. I'm a Christian, and I really, unless you make it a problem, get out of here. Not a problem. There are more than 4 million adult websites online. That's more traffic than Netflix, Amazon, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? A lot of Christians probably watch porn with their significant other because that's how they get off. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with it. 70% of Americans do not feel engaged or inspired at their jobs. Now, I think that that's important to pause at that one. You can't become anything in this country anymore. You can't. It's all been outsourced away, and all of the media jobs are designed, I guess, 6 companies. That's huge, because I know what it means to go to work and just not believe in what you're doing at all. I get it. I completely get it. There are no opportunities in the country. So you end up doing whatever you have to do to survive. There are people that tell me I'm immoral because I make my living at a strip club. Well, you know what? At least everybody going into the strip club when I'm DJing isn't somebody I have to steal from. When I had an honest job at Yellow Cab, Fred Nero, the greedy bastard that owns the place, would charge you so much for your cab that you'd work 8 hours and you'd make like $30. So you ended up ripping people off just because if you didn't, you weren't going to be able to eat that day, which has happened to me before when I had that job. So you get later in life and you walk into something and then someone wants to tell you it's immoral because there's titties involved. I don't give a rat's ass if their whole body is involved. The point is, there are no opportunities in this country. You take whatever job you can get because that's what there is here. There's no climbing up the ladder. Those days are gone. Those jobs have been sent away. I think it's very important to pause on that there. When Lyndon B. Johnson's war on poverty began, 10% of the U.S. children were growing up in single-parent households. Today it's 33%. The reason they mention that is that welfare leads to that sort of behavior. In 1950, less than 5% of all babies were born to unmarried parents. Today it's a 40%, same reason. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there are 20 million new cases of sexually transmitted diseases in America each year. This is scary. 28. Today, the United States has the highest STD infection rate in the entire industrialized world. There is no country outside of like the third world that's experiencing what we have. America leading the charge in STDs. According to the survey that was just released within the last 30 days, only 29% of Americans want to cut our federal funding to Planned Parenthood even after the undercover videos. You know what? I can see why. Because Planned Parenthood does a lot of things that have nothing to do with abortions. As a matter of fact, I don't know anybody off the top of my head that went to Planned Parenthood for an abortion, but I know a whole bunch that have gone there for things like cancer and screenings and all kinds of things. I'm all in favor of cutting off any funding for any abortion if you wish to, but I don't have a problem with states, not the government, states funding Planned Parenthood. And I'm not in favor of pooling their federal money on that issue alone. Cancel out abortions, fine, but they do a lot more than abortions. 30. America has the highest rate of illegal drug use on the entire planet. Well, that's only because we have too many drugs that are illegal. That's irrelevant. 31 doctors in the U.S. write more than 250 million prescriptions for antidepressants a year. And we all know that they're based on absolutely nothing. That's one of the most important ones in the entire stream here. They are poison. And unless you are schizophrenic, I wouldn't take them at all. Why do I say that? Because the schizophrenic drugs are poison. But they are the only thing that helps at all. The poison at least gives them a decent life until the poison kills them. And most of your garden variety manic depression patients just need to realize that A, they need to grow up a little bit. And if it's somebody that really cannot shake it, then there are things you can do such as going organic, cutting dyes out of your food, and at least only taking certain medications when absolutely on the brink. And again, I've covered this so many times on this that don't leave me a comment on it unless you look at my prior stuff. Just look at Correct Views, DVM. They're poison, friends. They're absolute poison, and most of psychiatry is quackery in this country. And I've got tons of papers to back it up. 32. One survey of a 50-year-old men in the U.S. found that only 12% said they were very happy. Yeah, because they spent their lives doing work they didn't believe in. 33. Every single year, the United States has the largest trade deficit in the entire world by a very large margin. And it says most Americans still don't seem concerned that thousands of businesses and millions of good jobs are leaving the country on a regular basis. Yeah, that's again, no one feels fulfilled because there's nothing here to fulfill anyone anymore. As you read this article, there are 102.6 million working age Americans that do not have a job. Last two, we are supposed to have a government for the people and by the people. But only 25% of Americans know how long U.S. senators are elected for, which is 6 years, and only 20% of all Americans know how many U.S. senators there are in total, currently 100. 36. On average, we have been stealing more than $100 million from future generations of Americans every single hour since Barack has been in the White House. So there you are, facts of where America is in fact leading the charge, as they say. This show's going long, so I'm going to go ahead and zip through this a little bit. I don't normally do the alien thing here, because quite frankly, I think a lot of people that do the alien thing are kind of crazy. Having said that, I see every reason to believe that aliens do exist, and virtually no reason not to. I mean, the more you study it, the more you can see that they very likely do. Now, does that mean that every crackpot that's on the internet that talks about being abducted by aliens is somebody I believe? No. For one thing, I've always said this. You have the alien abduction people, and they say, they come for me every night, and there's nothing I can do. Well, I can think of one thing that you could do. You could chain your foot to the bed, and then bolt your bed to the floor. You know what? If it suddenly gets ripped out, then we're going to buy your alien story. Otherwise, we're going to think you're a crackpot. How about that? Okay, I'm not talking about those people. I'm not talking about the crazy alien people. I'm talking about things like this. Aliens do exist, says top FBI memo. Aliens do exist according to, that's the headline. I hate when they do that. Investigators at the Haku Center for UFO Research in Tokyo, Japan, which has been poisoned by Fukushima and you shouldn't live there, claim they have discovered a document that proves there is extraterrestrial life. The FBI memo contains details about flying saucers being piloted by 3 feet tall aliens. Crastel, they've found you. They've found you. The Bureau is said to be concerned about the findings at the research center, fearing the discovery could lead to members of the public gaining access to thousands of documents. The FBI memo reportedly reads, an investigator for the Air Force states that 3 so-called flying saucers have been recovered in New Mexico. Now again, the reason that I'm giving some credence and airtime to this is because we're talking now about 3 documents that have nothing in common with each other. Everyone knows about the first 2 from Area 51. This is the 3rd document that were written by different people that all finger the same culprit, that are all saying the same story, right down to what state it was in. They didn't suddenly pick a different state. It was Maine, it was Alaska, it was Georgia. No, New Mexico. The same that the other ones. That's one of the reasons people believe the Bible, is because you have these unrelated prophets, thousands of years apart, all saying the same thing. And they ended up happening. If you look at the Old Testament, they all happened. And all of the Old Testament prophets did that prior to each other ever knowing each other. That's how you arrest people on criminal charges today for a number of things. When so many people's story matches up at the same time. Well, that's what we're seeing right here. And it's not some crackpot. It says they were described as being circular in shape with raised centers approximately 50 feet in diameter. Again, within 5 or 10 feet of every other report ever given. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape of only 3 feet tall, dressed in metallic cloth and very fine texture. Again, this isn't a new document. These are exactly the same things that the old document said, written by people that these people didn't know when they wrote it. That is not coincidence. According to Mr. Name Blacked Out, which I think they should have never done, whoever did that needs beaten with a rubber hose, the saucers were found in New Mexico due to the fact that the government was very high-powered radar set up in the area and was believed that the radar interferes with the controlling mechanism of the saucers. Well, I guess they've since found a way around it. Whatever the details of this reportedly top memo is, the truth is out there. And I think it's interesting. It at least needed mentioned, because there are other things here, such as the modern fascination with UFOs can be driven to a number of things. Well, here, now we got Fact Cam up. Crastel, now would be a great time to come up. Now that we've got Fact Cam up, look at this. Now, I'm not saying that these are or are not aliens. I have absolutely no idea. This could be proven to be any number of things at any given moment. But this is passenger films, UFO orbs from an airplane, and now of course it doesn't want to play because that's such is the way of my luck when I'm live. You have. Oh, we got to get our mandatory ad.
Think about it. Kids
Let me mute it. What you're looking at here is something worth looking into, something worth asking questions about and saying, hey, what is it? I'm not even going to put this on, man. I'm done with this site. Yahoo.com, you can go to hell. Look up passenger films, UFO orbs from space. You now get kicked off my show. That's what you get for having too many ads. Go ahead and look it up. Anyway, we now have 3 distinct reports written by people who did not know each other, describing the same kind of aliens in the same kind of suit. And this isn't something new. They just did it because they heard it from somebody else. It was written at the same time about the same event from people that didn't know each other. And I thought it was worthy of mention as I do the next 3 stories leading out here real quick. I do want to say, if I could though, above all else, check out Mike McLaughlin, MacLaughlin. You can find him on Facebook.com. He writes some of the best fiction that you will ever read. He is a political commentator. He's a poet. He does a number of things, and he does them very well. And I'm proud to have a writer as a sponsor of the show. I'm also proud to have Sticker Junkie as a sponsor of the show. Amazing stickers, amazing work. That's some example right there of his work. David Lake. Go into the media speaks, stickerjunkie.com and type in promo code CorrectViews. You're going to get a huge discount. Huge. Also, try typing in Trump Moon. You'll like that too. Stickerjunkie.com. Go see what happens. Write it. Go Trump Moon. Stickerjunkie.com. All right, friends, listen to this. The Daily Sheeple, new California bill will allow illegal aliens to vote. I swear every day I realize that even though I'm not a greenie weenie like Jello is, Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedys was so right in every single way about Jerry Brown so many years ago. He's been their governor off and on since the early 80s, in case you don't know. The man's older than Methuselah, and he's got ideas that are even older. On the surface, California's new Motor Voter Act doesn't sound too controversial. Basically, it's Jerry Brown signed it over the weekend, and it's supposed to mean that if you vote, then if you have a driver's license, then you're registered to vote. I got to admit, back in the day, I didn't have a problem with it, but now it's what they're doing is they're giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens because they're using the argument that if we give them driver's licenses, at least we can know where they are and what they're doing until we deal with whether to deport them or let them in the country. And it's for your safety. Remember public safety? Remember I warned you about that saying? For the safety of everyone. We want to know where the illegals are. All right, give them driver's licenses. Well, wait a minute. The new motor voter bill says that if you have a driver's license, you're allowed to vote. And since we gave the illegal aliens a driver's license to keep the public safe, now they can vote. Listen to this. Infowars.com, PJ Dub, Paul Joseph Watson. Video. Migrant complains about the lack of sex in the refugee camp. Friends, is there any reason that most of the Europe citizenry does not want these people in their country. By these people, do I mean something racist? No. I mean, they do not want a culture that is radically different from theirs coming into their country and imposing that culture upon the existing culture of the nation. For instance, regular sex under conditions that are not okay to most people in the West are very much okay to people in the Middle East. Now, I'm not even going to claim that one's better than the other. Obviously, I think that the sex-demanding migrants here are absolutely wrong in every way, but we're going to avoid that. It's common sense. This is not going to work. And here's why. The West aren't real fond of having our women raped, just because they are to be subservient to the man, as laid out according to Muhammad. Most of us in the West do not give a damn what Muhammad said. You, from the East, cannot accept that. That is why you need to not be moving into European nations unless you are willing to acclimate to European ways any more than I have any business moving my stupid ass into Turkey. That would probably be a very bad idea. That'd be a stupid idea, and I wouldn't do it. Why? Because it's a stupid idea. It's called The Correct Views, not The Stupid Idea Show. I do think we owe them some housing temporarily, since the West, particularly the West, has caused this by stirring up the mess that was in Syria. I understand that we caused this mess, and I accept that. Our government, not us as a people. But this is not going to be tolerated in any nation. And if you want to say, well, their culture is just different than yours, then they really don't need to come here, because we're not going to accept this. Video footage shot outside a refugee camp in Europe shows a migrant complaining about the lack of sex available in the camp while bemoaning the fact that he had to stay in a taxpayer-funded hospital for 3 days because of blue balls. Listen to this bonehead.
Say, make this. I sleep 3 days in hospital because this is a problem.
What was the problem?
What?
Problem here.
Problem there?
Exactly. Balls, it's very big. Like this. It's
Your
big.
balls.
Really. He said make sex with anyone or make anything.
We asked 100 people, okay?
He's saying that his